ड्राइंग इरेज।
और क्यों तकलीफ यार तुम
अब इससे क्या होगा?
क्यों जरूरत है भाई?
हम लोग के स्क्रीन पे ही होएगा ना, बाकी लोग
की स्क्रीन पे भी होगा। बक क्या?
तेज प्रभु आपका साउंड आ रहा है।
Hare Krishna. So now we'll begin our session, Prerna program, on the topic of Mahabharata, the lessons for leaders. So welcome all of you for today evening's program. We see many people connecting on Zoom. So I request all the participants to kindly keep muted because there are more than 25 participants right now and more will be joining soon. So keep yourself muted and maybe you can turn off your video also in order to conserve the bandwidth. So after this session, we'll be having question answers. So at that time, we can turn on the video. So now we'll be beginning this session. I'll be sharing a PowerPoint presentation, so which you can see on your screen. If you're able to see, you can type on the chat. Are you able to see the PPT? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I'll begin with a short prayer to invoke the blessings of Guru and Krishna, and also offering prayers to the author of Mahabharata, Srila Vyasadeva. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Bhashatadeshatarini Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sambhudyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaurabhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet. Hare Krishna. So today we are discussing from Mahabharata. Mahabharata is one of the most important epics of India. Epic is a book which is of high value and it is world renowned, and it has been there since many centuries. So there is an epic. And in India, there are main two epics, which is Mahabharata and Ramayana. They are the most important books. And Mahabharata also contains a book called Bhagavad Gita inside it. So the middle 18 chapters of Mahabharata is called Bhagavad Gita, which is the most important section of. So before getting into Mahabharata, the lessons from Mahabharata, let me give a brief introduction to what is Mahabharata and why we are discussing it today. So Mahabharata, Maha means great, Bharat means India. So the history of great India, that is Mahabharata, right? So this land where we are staying, that is called as Bharata. And this incident mentioned here happened in this place, in this area of land. So that's called as Mahabharata. And it is written about 5,000 years back by Vyasa Maharshi, Vyasadeva, and it contains 1,000 shlokas. So not 1,000, sorry. It contains 1 lakh shlokas. Bhagavad Gita itself contains 700 shlokas. And Mahabharata contains 1 lakh shlokas. So compared to other books, Mahabharata is really voluminous, very big. If you compare to books of other faiths and all, Mahabharata is so voluminous. One of the scholars from foreign, he had come and he studied Mahabharata. And after studying Mahabharata, his conclusion was God must exist. And people asked him, how are you coming to such a conclusion? Then he said, because this book cannot be written by any human. This book has to be written by God, because it is so descriptive, so voluminous, so many details, so many intricacies, so many interconnections in this. So this book has to be written by God only. So that was his conclusion. So that's how important this book is. And this book is a book of values. Mahabharata contains many lessons for all of our life. So Mahabharata can be approached or it can be studied in three different ways. First one is a ordinary point of view, just like a family story. There was one family of Kauravas and there was family of Pandavas, and there was some tussle between them, and then there was a war, and finally Pandavas became victorious and Kauravas died. So that can be like a family fight. You can see it from a mundane or material point of view, which is a very lowest level of studying Mahabharata. And another level of studying Mahabharata is from a moral point of view. By studying the attitudes of Kauravas, the attitudes of Pandavas, one can learn many lessons from them. So that is moral point of view. What to do, what not to do, how to live, how not to live, right? In what situation, how to react. So these are all the principles that we can learn when we study from the moral point of view. And third angle of studying Mahabharata is from devotional point of view, where we see how the Pandavas were utterly devoted to Lord's will, even in tough times, and the Kauravas were thoroughly neglecting the Lord's will. So this difference, as you can see, and when you approach Mahabharata from the devotional point of view, you get devotional lessons, which is the highest way of studying Mahabharata, right? So in this today's presentation, we'll be seeing the second level, which is moral level, where we can learn some moral principles for living in this world, because morality is required to live a peaceful life in this world while living in this world. And devotional perspective is required for attaining the other world, to attain the Lord. So we can approach the Lord only when we study this literature from devotional point of view. So that we will discuss at the end. So in the beginning, we'll discuss from moral point of view, what lessons we can study. Okay. So as you see the setting here in this photograph, there is a huge army. On one side, the Pandavas, and the other side there is Kauravas, right? So this was one of the biggest battles which the world witnessed in the history, right? And this war was very, very important in the sense to establish what is right, what is virtue. This war was very essential. Right? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Whenever there is an upheaval of principles of morality, then that morality has to be again re-established. Right? So like sometimes when terrorists attack a country, there is peacekeeping force which is there. So that force has to be applied to keep peace. So like that, Pandavas army was like a peacekeeping force which was working towards establishing dharma. And another thing about this scene is that you will see Krishna and Arjuna sitting on the chariot, and Krishna is giving good counsel to Arjuna, and this we will discuss as part of our presentation. And this is the most important theme of Mahabharata, the conversation which happened between Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is called Bhagavad Gita, which contains 700 slokas, which is the cream of Mahabharata. And Mahabharata is presented in such a way that even a layman can understand the principles. Those principles which are very difficult to understand by studying Vedas can be very easily understood by reading Mahabharata, especially the Bhagavad Gita portion of Mahabharata. So that's why this book Mahabharata is very famous, even among common people who cannot study the Vedas. Okay. And how is it relevant to us right now? Now world is also waging a war against an unknown enemy which cannot be caught, nor it can be you cannot see him. So such is the enemy, and so many people all over the world are being tormented by this enemy, right? It's a global war happening, not just India, not just Asia, but the whole world is against this. So from Mahabharata, we can try to find some lessons how we can also try to battle against this epidemic which is causing trouble all over the world. I request everybody to switch off their videos. Do not turn on their videos. That may distract the session. Okay. So now we'll go ahead. So here are the two teams. So the Kauravas and Pandavas, right? When the Kurukshetra battle was about to begin, there were two parties which were formed, the Kaurava side and the Pandava side. And on the Kaurava side, there was Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Shalya, Krupa, Ashwathama, Duryodhana, Jayadratha, and many more. We'll just put some important names here. Right? Bhishma was the grandfather of both Pandavas and Kauravas. Right? If you see the history, little bit history in the background, you'll understand that actually Pandavas and Kauravas are not different. They're actually one. They come in Kuru Vamsha. So Kuru Vamsha is one. So there's one king called Kuru, and from his dynasty come Shantanu. And Shantanu had son called Bhishma. Bhishma took the vow of not getting married. He took the vow of Brahmacharya. So that was Bhishma. And because Bhishma was not able to produce children, then his other brothers, like Vichitra, Virya and Chitrangada, they were requested to get married and produce children, but they died before producing any children, right? And then Amba, Ambika and Ambalika, so they were the Ambika and Ambalika, they got two children, Dhritarashtra and Pandu. And Dhritarashtra was born blind. Although Dhritarashtra was elder, but he was born blind. And Pandu, although he was younger, he was very chivalrous and he was very powerful, and he had all the wonderful qualities of an administrator. So that's why he was chosen to be the king, because a blind person cannot lead. So Dhritarashtra was not made the king. But Pandu, he was very virtuous, he was very pure, truthful. And because he was pure and truthful, he had a lot of attraction for spirituality. So due to that, he had a lot of attraction for staying in the forest with the sages and performing austerities. So Kunti, along with Pandu, they had gone to the forest. Even Madri was also there. Pandu had two wives, Madri and Kunti. So the Pandavas, Yudhishthir, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva, they were all brought up in the forest in midst of the sages in the childhood days. And Dhritarashtra, he was there in the kingdom, and he was also taking care of some responsibilities in the kingdom. But what happened? Pandu, he died in the forest prematurely, and the children, the Pandavas, were very young. So due to that, the Pandavas were not able to sit on the throne. Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was the eldest, was not able to sit on the throne because he was too young. And Dhritarashtra was ruling on behalf of the Pandavas. So the agreement was that when the Pandavas grow up, at that time the kingdom will be handed over to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and Dhritarashtra will continue staying in Hastinapura. But Dhritarashtra had some wicked mentality. He wanted to take over the kingdom. So the name Dhritarashtra itself indicates one who is attached to kingdom. Dhrita Rashtra. Rashtra means kingdom. Dhrita means one is attached to kingdom. So he was not ready to give up the kingdom. So he wanted his son Duryodhana to act as the king. So what he did, he wanted to deprive the Pandavas of the chair, the Hastinapura's Simhasana. So then he started plotting that how we can try to kill the Pandavas. So repeated attempts done to kill the Pandavas. Bhima was given poison and thrown in Ganga. He was drowned, but again he came back very powerfully. And then they were sent to Varanavata, where they made a building and it was put on fire. And still, somehow by the help of Vidura, the Pandavas could escape that plot. And they went to the forest. In forest, there was great demons like Hidimba who tried to kill the Pandavas. Still, they were protected by the power of Krishna. And then they were sent to the forest for 13 years, exiled, but still they could not be killed. So like this, Dhritarashtra made repeated attempts to vanquish the Pandavas, but because of Krishna's protection, nothing would happen to the Pandavas. And then after the Pandavas were cheated in the gambling match, and even they tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly. They tried to remove the sari. Draupadi, such an insult to a woman they tried to do. So Kauravas are repeatedly doing heinous activities like this against the Pandavas. And Pandavas were very humble, very tolerant. They were virtuous. They tried to tolerate everything, injustice which was done to them. But after the 13 years of exile, right, after the dice game was over, then they were sent to the forest for 13 years. And when they came back, Pandavas requested, no, as per the promise which was done before the dice game, that the kingdom has to be returned back after 13 years. So kindly give back our half kingdom so that we'll continue our ruling. And at that time, Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana said, no, we'll not give. At least give 5 villages. Then Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana said, no, we'll not even give. Actually, especially Duryodhana, who was very heinous minded. He said, I'll not give you the land which is the size of the tip of the needle. I'll not give that much also. So then Pandavas are wondering what to do. These people are so ruthless. They are not giving our right share of property. And they didn't want property for their own sake. They wanted the property for establishing virtuous principles, for protecting people, because they were Kshatriyas, they were very powerful. They could administrate a huge kingdom. So they wanted the land for service, not for sense gratification. So at that time, they tried to have negotiations. Nothing worked. Krishna himself went for negotiation, but still the Kauravas, especially Duryodhana, did not agree. And when Duryodhana tried to capture Krishna, then Krishna thought it's too much. And Krishna showed his Vishwarup Darshan, and Duryodhana was bewildered. He could not capture Krishna, and Krishna went back. And then it was decided that war is inevitable. We cannot avoid the war now. We have to, the war is inevitable, we have to fight. So at that time, the parties were formed. So these are the two parties. On one side, Kauravas, another side, Pandavas. On Pandavas side were Yudhishthir, Arjun, Bhim, and of course Nakul are there. Then Drishtadyumna, Abhimanyu, Ghatotkacha, Shikhandi, and Satyaki. These are also very powerful personalities. Right? Yudhishthir, Arjun, Bhim are Pandavas. Drishtadyumna is son of Drupada, who was meant to kill Drona. Abhimanyu is son of grandson. Arjuna's son of Uttara, and the husband of Uttara. And Ghatotkacha is son of Bhima. And Shikhandi, he was meant to kill Bhishma. And then Satyaki. Satyaki was very dear friend of Krishna and disciple of Arjuna. So these are the famous personalities on both the sides. And these two personalities, teams assembled on the field of Kurukshetra, right? And then the battle is about to begin. And that starts the first verse of Bhagavad Gita. Dharma kshetre Kurukshetre samaveta yutsavaha mamakaha pandavas chaiva kimakurvata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra is asking the question, when my sons and Pandu's sons assembled on the battle of Kurukshetra, what did they do? That was the question. See, Dhritarashtra, he is considering my sons as his sons as his sons, and then Pandu's sons as foreigners, like separate. That's how his mentality. Actually, they are one family. They are both Pandu and Dhritarashtra brothers. So they are one family, but he is seeing the differentiation. But Yudhishthira Maharaj never saw this differentiation. He always considered both as one. But Dhritarashtra saw this differential mentality. So that's why he's asking Sanjaya, sitting in Hastinapur, what is happening in Kurukshetra? Can you please tell me? And Sanjay, who had the divine vision, with his divine vision, he is able to see, like sometimes in cricket match, the live telecast, and you can see on in your mobile or computers. Similarly, Sanjay had the vision to see Doordarshan. From here, he could see Kurukshetra, and he was narrating to Dhritarashtra. So that's the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. So let's see some lessons. So I'll present 10 points here. So 10 points. I'll say what are the Kauravas from angle point of view, and then Pandavas point of view, and what lesson we can learn. Okay. So the first point we are going to learn is motivation for war. Okay. So let's see what is the motivation for Kauravas to fight this battle of Kurukshetra. So Kauravas, their motivation was this: without war, we will concede not a needle prick of earth. See, Duryodhana is telling, I will not give anything to you, not even one land which will fit on the tip of the needle. That was his mentality. So what is this mentality called? This mentality is called as selfish mentality, grabbing mentality. They don't want to share. They want to only enjoy. Right? All the Pandavas were his own cousin brothers. And in cousin brothers, we generally share with each other whatever we have. And whatever belongs to me belongs to my cousin also. That's the kind of mentality generally people possess. But here, Duryodhana was not having that mentality. He was very selfish. And he was very demoniac mentality. Right? So it's written here. Duryodhana was completely focused on war. It was his moment of truth. He had usurped a kingdom and he meant to keep it. He had resorted to any means, foul or fair, to get the kingdom, which he believed to be rightfully his, and he was in no mood to give it up. So this was the mentality, right? So he was sitting on this Simhasana. Actually, Dhritarashtra was sitting. Actually, Dhritarashtra was like a puppet, and actually the kingdom was run by Duryodhana. And Dhritarashtra was very much attached to Duryodhana, so he could not stop whatever Duryodhana was doing. Even sometimes Dhritarashtra was asking Vidura, "Hey Vidura, please tell, should he fight or not fight?" And Vidura gave advice, "Don't fight. Whole dynasty will be ruined." Then he called Duryodhana and said, "Duryodhana, I think we should not fight. Can you give it up?" He said, "No. How can I give it up? I have to fight. This is our kingdom. How can we give this kingdom to the Pandavas? Pandavas have to suffer." That was his mentality. So Duryodhana was para dukkha sukhi. Means what? When he sees others in distress, he will enjoy. So that was Duryodhana. And Yudhishthira Maharaj was para dukkha dukhi. When he sees others in distress, he will also become distressful. Right? He cannot tolerate other suffering. Like right now, people all over the world, they are suffering. So many lakhs of people are getting killed. It's very painful to see that people are dying because of this disease. So a devotee or a person of good heart, he will try to do something for these people for stopping their suffering, isn't it? Like ISKCON is trying to distribute prasadam. Many other organizations also giving food. Some people are giving shelter, clothing, all those things. Some even the doctors and the police, they are working day and night for protecting the people. So one should appreciate such people who are trying to take pain for helping others, right? So a devotee's heart is always full of compassion. But Duryodhana is very envious. Once what happened when Pandavas were in the forest during the 12 years of exile, Duryodhana came to know where they are staying. So he came near them and he put a camp near. And he wanted to just increase the pain of the Pandavas. So Duryodhana came there with his army and he was nicely made a huge, beautiful tent and he was eating and drinking and enjoying. And Pandavas are also seeing from far, know what is happening. So at that time, suddenly one Gandharva called Chitravarti came and kidnapped Duryodhana. And Duryodhana could not release himself. He was so so much in distress that he was crying for help and he was not able to get released from this Gandharva's hands. So at that time, Yudhishthira Maharaj says, "Hey Arjuna, our brother, he's getting kidnapped. Please go and help." Arjuna was thinking, "Acha hua, it's very good. Duryodhana is getting kidnapped. It will be very good. He's getting good lesson now." Yudhishthira said, "Hey, why are you telling like this? Go and help him. He's our own brother. Actually, Duryodhana may consider us as Pandavas and himself as Kauravas, but actually I think we are all 105. We are not 5, but we are 105. So that's the mentality Yudhishthira Maharaj had. And Arjuna was told to go and help him. Arjuna went, fought with that Gandharva and released Duryodhana and came back. So that was the mentality of Pandavas. So Kaurava, especially Duryodhana, was very envious and greedy. But Yudhishthira Maharaj was selfless and friendly. So what Yudhishthira Maharaj is telling here. We fight over a kingdom as dogs or a piece of meat, right? Like sometimes you somebody throws a roti or some meat to a dog, then pack of dogs come and they start fighting with each other. It's mine, it's mine. Right? They want to grab it. That's the mentality. But Yudhishthira was telling him, why we have to fight like dogs? Let's share peacefully and live peacefully. And you take half roti, I'll take half roti. Why are we fighting like cats and dogs? So that was the mentality of Yudhishthira Maharaj, right? The Pandavas had been humiliated, their wife insulted, their kingdom taken, but still they wanted to avoid the war. Three elder brothers, so the three elder Pandavas were against the war. They even went as far as making an offer that they will stop the war in exchange of 5 villages. Right? We are 5 Pandavas, give us 5 villages. That we'll be happy with that. So Duryodhana was not agreeing for this also. So this is the mentality between difference in mentality, motivation for the war between Kauravas and Pandavas. Right? So what is the lesson from this? Devotees of the Lord are always guided by Lord Krishna to do the right thing at the right time. So we should learn the right principles to be applied in life from following slides. So what are the principles we learned here? That one should be selfless, one should be service oriented, one should be forgiving, one should help others. And these are the principles which Pandavas are practicing even in the time of crisis. Right? Why they were able to have such wonderful qualities? Because they were always guided by the most wonderful personality, who is Krishna. The all-good personality, the Supreme Lord, he was guiding them. Because Pandavas were always obedient to Krishna, they always got good guidance. But Duryodhana and Kauravas, they were envious of Lord Krishna, so they could not make the right decisions because of the lack of mercy. So this is the lesson we learn from this. So nowadays, even in modern world, you can see both kind of people. Some are demoniac and some are divine. Demonic people always try to cause harm to others, right? Like if you give a gun to a demonic person, he will start shooting at people, or he'll put bomb, like terrorists, and they put bomb and they kill people. And sometimes they themselves become a bomb. They put the bomb and they come near and they explode themselves. So this is all demonic mentality. They want to harm others at any cost. And divine mentalities, they want to serve others at any cost. Like the army. At army, they sacrifice their life for the sake of country, not for their own sake. Right? They're sacrificing themselves, their life for the sake of the country. So that is the motivation. One should be selfless, but one should not be selfish. So that's the first lesson. So we'll go ahead to the next point. So preparation. Second point is preparation. When the war was inevitable, both the armies started preparing and they made sides with each. Some people became part of Kauravas and some people became part of Pandavas. Right? So Kauravas, when they started making the army, the Karna was sent on a countrywide mission, military mission. They told you subdue all the different kings and then you try to capture them or you try to forcefully make them on your side. Now when a big war is about to happen, they are already waging a small war. What is the requirement of that? So they're wasting their resources and they're wasting their energy in fighting small wars, and so many soldiers are getting killed. So it means loss in terms of both men and money and creation of new enemies. Because some people may not want, so that's why they will fight. They'll become enemies unnecessarily. So that's the problem. So they invited a problem during preparation. But what Pandavas did, their preparation was like this. So the Pandavas were in forest for 13 years. So 12 years of Vanavas and 1 year of Ajnatavas. In those 13 years, they used that situation to increase their strength. So they strengthened their weaknesses. Right? See, all of us have got a strong side and a weak side. So strong side should become more stronger and weak side should become at least a little bit stronger. Right? So then we'll be able to face any situations which may come uninvited in our own life. Like for example, here what the Pandavas did, though in exile, they turned their attention to improving over their weaknesses. Arjuna set out on a mission to acquire Divya Astras. If you read what all Arjuna did, it's very incredible. Arjuna met great personalities. Once Vasudev came and gave a mantra to Yudhishthir. The chanting this mantra, you can go to any far place at lightning speed. So then Yudhishthir gave that to Arjuna. I told Arjuna, you go to Himalayas and learn Divya Astras and then come back. Because I'm expecting that after 13 years, there will be a war which is going to happen. And in that war, you will be playing a very important role. So Arjuna took this mantra and he went to the Himalayas. And there he happened to encounter Lord Shiva. So of course, it's a long story, but I'll not quote that in detail. And Shiva came in the form of a hunter, and then there was a fight, exchange of weapons there. And Lord Shiva was very happy with the fight of Arjuna. And Arjuna can never defeat Lord Shiva. Shiva is a very extraordinary personality. But Shiva was very happy. And he said, I want to give you something. Take this Pashupatastra, which is an extremely powerful weapon. And when in time of need, you can use this. So he gave it to Arjuna. And Shiva told that you continue doing tapasya here, and Indra will send his chariot with Matali, and you can go to the heavens. And Arjuna stayed there for some time, and then Matali with 1,000 horses chariot, he came and took Indra to heaven. And Indra took Arjuna to heaven, and Arjuna stayed in Indra Loka for 5 years. And he learned so many things from everybody, all the devatas, and he became extremely powerful. So when he came back, the Yudhishthira Maharaj was so amazed at how powerful Arjuna had become, and they are fully confident that even if something happens, Arjuna will be there to help them. So that was Arjuna's strength. And Bhima, when they were staying in Badrikashrama in the higher Himalayas, at that time Draupadi sees one lotus, 1,000-petaled lotus, and she tells Bhima, can you get more? So Bhima goes to higher planets up to Yakshaloka, and when he was going there, he sees one monkey sitting under a tree, and monkey's tail was on the road, on the pathway. And as per our tradition, we do not cross over the body of any man or animal, because we consider that the body is like a temple where the Lord stays. Because in our body there is Atma and Paramatma both staying, so we do not cross the body. So Hanuman said, please remove the tail, monkey, I want to move. And the monkey said, see, I'm so tired, I'm so old, I cannot lift my tail, you only lift. So then Bhima tried to lift. He could not even move it a millimeter. He was amazed, who are you? You seem to be very powerful. And are you Hanuman? Then that old monkey opened his eyes and he said, yes, I am Hanuman. Then Bhima became so happy. He said, my dear brother, I am also Vayuputra, you are also Vayuputra. By good fortune to see you. Since the time of Ramayana, you are staying here. Yes, Lord Ram told me to stay here. That's why I am staying here. So then they both embraced. And then Hanuman showed the big form by which he had jumped to Lanka. And then he blessed Hanuman. So Hanuman blessed Bhima, telling that in future there is going to be a big war. And in that war, and I will be there on your chariot. On the top, on the flag, I will be standing, I will be sitting. And whenever you cry, I will also add my sound and I will cry. Like when you say Akraman, I will also add my sound and say Akraman. Like this, Bhima made friends with Hanuman and got his blessings. And Yudhishthira Maharaj, he met different sages and he got blessings of different sages. And blessings of the sages are extremely powerful. And also one more thing he did was, from Chitrasena, he learned the art of dice, because he was defeated in the art of dice. He learned it. So next time if dice game happens, he will never lose. He became undefeatable. So in this way, all the Pandavas strengthened their weaknesses to become more strong. Right now, also whole world is in this situation, especially India in lockdown. So it is like Vanavas only, not Vanavas, but home was. We cannot go out of our homes. Now in this situation, what can we do? We can try to strengthen our weaknesses. right? If our reading is weak, we can try to improve our reading. We can try to improve our meditation, concentration, chanting Hare Krishna. We can read Shastras, right? Like this, we can try to strengthen our weaknesses. Right? Generally, people have 6 weaknesses: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya. So these 6 weaknesses can be strengthened in this time because we have a lot of time for working on our own heart by reading and hearing scriptures. Right? So this is a wonderful time for that. That is the second lesson. And third lesson is allies. Third perspective is allies. So Kauravas and Pandavas both made allies or friendships. Kauravas had some allies. They had centralized power system. There was one leader and everybody works under that leader. And there are some allies like Shakuni from Gandhar Desh. Gandhar Desh is in Kandahar in Afghanistan currently. So actually, the Bharatavarsha or India was expanded up to Pakistan and up to Afghanistan, even further also. Right? Even in Azerbaijan, you can see fire gods temple, Agni's temples. So this culture was there far away at that time, 5,000 years back. Even up to Cambodia, the biggest Vishnu temple is found in Cambodia, which is called Angkor Wat. So their Vishnu temple is there, which is far Southeast Asia. So this Vedic culture was there everywhere. So the kings of Kandahar, Cambodia, Sindhu, so all these kings were the associates. So not many allies Kauravas could make. Although they had a big army of 11 Akshauhini, still they could not make more strong allies. But Pandavas had strong allies because of, although they had no wealth in the forest, they had no power of their own, but still powerful friends all over India because of their wonderful character. So they had allied with Panchala Desh, means Drupada was the king there, or because of marriage with Draupadi. Arjuna married Draupadi, right? Dwarka through the marriage of Arjuna and Subhadra. Magadha through the marriage of Sahadeva and Vijaya. Chedi through the marriage of Nakula and Karanmai. Kashiraj, Bhima married Barandara. Kekaya Desh. Then Matsya Desh, Abhimanyu married Uttara. Right? Abhimanyu was the son of Subhadra who married Uttara. And the Rakshasas through the marriage of Bhima and Hidimba. Right? This is very interesting because Bhima, when he was in the forest for 1 year, 1 year vanvas, which happened after the Varnavarta episode. So at that time, this demon came to kill. There are 2 demons, Hidimba and Hidimbi. So both are brother and sisters. So at that time, this Rakshasi, got attracted to Bhima and proposed that please marry me. But the brother was not agreeing. Hey, they are humans. We eat them. They're good food for us. And you're thinking of marriage. At that time, Bhima fights with the brother and kills him. And then with the permission of Kunti, that he asks Kunti, should I marry? And Kunti says, yes, you can marry. So then Bhima marries Hidimba and then Ghatotkacha was born. And Ghatotkacha, being a powerful Rakshasa, he was a very key player in the battle of Kurukshetra. Right? He killed almost half of the Sena when he was about to die. Right? And then Arjuna married one of the Nagakanya. Her name was Ulupi. And from that, Iravan was born. So although they were in forest, they had no possessions, still they got allies. And they had a variety of allies. Somebody is in Nagaloka, somebody is a Rakshasa, somebody is a king, somebody is a Devata. So in that way, they got made powerful allies. Similarly, leader, you should have powerful allies or friends. Right? Whether you may be working in a company or you may be leading a group of a team. So if you have strong friendship with some powerful allies, then you'll be more successful. Right? Why? Because there are certain things which I cannot do, but I can take help of others. Right? So in that way, like Pandavas could not go to the higher planets because they could not. But Ghatotkacha carried them. Right? Once they went to the different planet ahead of the Himalayas. So there they went. It's a different region in the earth they could go because of the help of Ghatotkacha, which was not possible for humans. Because Ghatotkacha was a Rakshasa he could carry. So they got allies with different varieties of people. So similarly, one can have friendship with government officials, one can have friendship with police, right? Like I was traveling and one of the police met me on the road. He said, Swamiji, do you know Kannada? I said, yes. Then on the road, he was asking questions for about 10-15 minutes about Mahabharata and Ramayana. I was very interested. So then we had exchange of numbers and they're in touch with each other. No? We help him and they help us because everybody needs each other. So when you have powerful friends with each other, then you are more powerful. More variety of friends we have, then we are more stronger, right? So similarly, devotees can also have friendship with other devotees from other places or other language and other nationalities, right? Because that will help us to appreciate the variety of bhakti, right? How even an Indian can do bhakti, even American can do bhakti, even a African or Russian can also practice bhakti, even though the circumstances are different. Being in different places, still one can have practice bhakti, and we can get inspired by in our own spirituality by having such wonderful friends. So that's the lesson: make powerful allies. Right? Yes. Then the fourth lesson is leadership. So in Kaurava's side, the leadership was like this: one head of army at a time, who was supreme authority of 11 Akshani of army. Right. For the first 10 days, Bhishma was the commander in chief, and for next 5 days, Drona was the commander. Then last 3 days, one day Karna, one day Shalya, and then, right, like this, the totally 18 days were divided. So only one person was taking charge of the entire army, which is not a good model, because one person has to take so much tension of navigating the whole army and organizing them and fighting them, communicating with them. So it's very tedious. But Pandavas had a distributed leadership. So what is the distributed leadership? It's like this. Distributed leadership, but all aligned by Krishna's advice. 7 commanders for 7 divisions. So Pandavas had 7 Akshvani, which was divided into different divisions. So generally, when the allies, they brought their army, so they made the leader of that army was made the leader for them. Like Virata, he came with 1 Akshvani, and then he was made the leader for that army. Drupada was another 1 Akshvani Sena, and Sahadeva, son of Jarasandha. Actually, Jarasandha was killed by Bhima, and then the son was made the king by Krishna. Krishna enthroned him as the king. So that's Sahadeva. It's not Pandav Sahadeva, but that son of Jarasandha. He was made the another commander. And then Drishtaketu, Satyaki, Shikhandi, they are all different leaders. And then there was main commander who was commander in chief, Drishtadumna. So once there was a discussion between the 5 Pandavas, who should be the commander in chief? And somebody was telling Arjuna, somebody was telling Yudhishthir. The different names are coming. But Yudhishthir, he went to Krishna. Krishna, I want you to tell who should be the commander in chief. But Yudhishthir knew. We are all fighting, but Krishna will tell the best thing. So then Krishna said, Drishtadumna. And Yudhishthir did not ask a question. He said, Yudhishthir, you are the commander in chief. Then Arjuna was made the supreme commander, and Krishna was the driver of Arjuna, see, and the counselor. Krishna had taken a vow that he will never fight. But he was driving the chariot. Why he was driving? Because he loved Arjuna. He was Arjuna was such a devotee of Krishna that Krishna became conquered by his love, and he wanted to drive him. So he took the position of a driver. The Supreme Lord, who showed the Virata Rupa, you can see in this photograph behind. That Krishna, who is the master of the whole world, whole universe, who is showing the Virata Rupa, he is becoming the driver of Arjuna, right? So such is the wonderful quality of Krishna, that he is not attached to his godhood; he wants to serve, right? So in this way, all the personalities in the Pandava side, they share the responsibilities. So similarly, a good leader, he shares the responsibility, right? He doesn't keep everything with himself. Imagine if you are the one who is doing everything, then your head will reel, isn't it? So there will be problems. Like if you are managing a center, and you are the one who is purchasing grocery, you are the one who is taking vegetables, or you are the one who is cleaning, and you are the one who has to look into duty service and everything. So it's like so tedious, isn't it? Or if you are owner of a company, you only check the accounts, you only check the attendance, you only check the progress in the projects. Everything one person is only doing, and head will reel. So you will not have peace of mind. But if he distributes to trustworthy people, empowers them, then he can be more peaceful. At one risk with empowering others is mistakes may happen, because they may make some mistakes, but what will happen is through mistakes they will grow also. So eventually they'll become more expert, and then that will expand the company or expand the profits of the company. Right? Even like Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder of ISKCON, he was one person who went to America in 1965. He had nobody with him, nobody, absolutely nobody. He went alone with one suitcase and some 30 rupees in his pocket. That's all. When he landed in America, he went by boat, and he didn't know whether to go left or go right, because he didn't know where to stay. But fortunately, one person came, picked him up, and took him to the home. And then from Pennsylvania, he was staying there in Butler, Pennsylvania. From there, he went to New York. Single man. And he started doing some Bhagavad Gita classes, and some people, hippies, were coming and attending his classes. And Srila Prabhupada saw that these people, although they're having bad habits, they have interest. And because they had interest, they had that eagerness, they had respect for Srila Prabhupada, they grew, they became pure. They gave up all their bad habits and they started chanting Hare Krishna, they started wearing tilak and Indian Vaishnava dress, and they became very exalted people. And then what Srila Prabhupada did, he gave them as responsibilities. He told three couples, you go to London and start a center there. He told another devotee, you go to Japan and start a center there. He told another devotee, go to Europe, Germany, go to different countries. So in this way, in 10 years, Srila Prabhupada could establish 108 temples all over the world. It's really incredible. So a true leader, he doesn't want to take the credit, but he wants to share the responsibilities and give the credit to them. So that's what Srila Prabhupada did. And when Srila Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada, you're able to do so much. How are you able to do this? And Prabhupada said, it's all by the grace of my Guru. Right? My Guru has told me to do this service of preaching this Bhagavad Gita all over the world. I'm humbly doing it. And he has sent all of you, all my disciples, Krishna and Guru has sent to help me. So the all credit goes to Guru and Krishna. So he didn't take any credit for himself. He gave the credit to his disciples and to Guru and Krishna. So that was the mentality of the Pandavas. So let's see the next lesson. Team spirit. Kauravas, there was no team spirit. They all fought their individual wars. Right? You see here, Bhishma, why he was fighting? Because he had taken a vow. Whoever is sitting on the chair of Hastinapur, I'll support him. Now, because Dhritarashtra is sitting, I'll support Dhritarashtra. Drona and Kripacharya, they had vowed allegiance. They have the same reason, that we will support the king of Hastinapur. Because king of Hastinapur at the time had given them at the time of need, they gave them, they appointed them as teachers, and they maintained them. Like they had eaten the salt of the Hastinapur kingdom. So that way they wanted to support. Although against their own heart, they wanted to support Dhritarashtra. Shalya is actually the brother of Madri. Means he is the uncle of Sahadeva and Nakula. And he was coming from Madras to join Pandava's army. But in between, what happened? Duryodhana came and he made nice tents and a nice feast, water, everything he was nicely arranged at different intervals. And Shalya thought, see, Yudhishthira Maharaj is giving me so much respect and welcoming me. Whoever is arranging this, I'll wholeheartedly support him. Like that, he uttered a vow. And he was confident Yudhishthira is doing this. But then came Duryodhana and he's smiling, it's me. And Shalya was, my God, it's you. Why did he give promise? So then Shalya was forced, or he was cheated to be on Kaurava's side. Then Karna. Right? Karna was attached to Duryodhana's friendship. Right? So because of Duryodhana's friendship, he could not come to the side of Pandavas. Although Krishna came and told, and Kunti came and told, but still he could not use his intelligence to come on the side of Pandavas. If he had come on the side of Pandavas, Yudhishthira Maharaj would have put his throne to Karna and said, Karna, you are my brother, you are the king, I am your servant. Like that, he could have told to Karna, but Karna did not agree to come here. And even among Kauravas, there was tussle. Bhishma and Karna, they were constantly against each other. Karna and Shalya, they were enemies. Right? Karna had taken a vow that till the time Bhishma is fighting, I will not come in the war. So for first 10 days, Karna was not fighting only. It means what? Where is his love for Duryodhana? So it's all envy, ego fighting happening here. Karna had such a big ego that till the time Bhishma is there, I'll not come. So it means what there is no team spirit. And Karna and Shalya, in the I think on the 16th day when Karna was fighting with Arjuna, at that time he asked Duryodhana, I want a chariot driver because Arjuna is being driven by Krishna. I want somebody who can match Krishna in chariot driving. Then I can kill Arjuna. So at that time he proposed Shalya. And Duryodhana went and told Shalya, please, can you agree to become the chariot driver? Shalya felt so insulted. I am a Kshatriya. You want me to drive the chariot? So then he pleads. Duryodhana falls at the feet of Shalya, begs and pleads, and Shalya finally agrees. And then when Shalya was driving, Shalya was speaking such harsh words to Karna that Karna used to get discouraged. Once Karna said, why are you fighting against Arjuna and Krishna? Don't you know? Fighting with Arjuna and Krishna is like trying to cross the river with 2 hands and a stone tied on your neck. You'll drown. Karna became so furious. He was so angry that why Shalya is telling like this, but he was tolerating. So such kind of disunity was there in Kaurava side. But Pandava side, strong commitment. We are five brothers are like this. Right? When we come together, we are very powerful. We can fight against anybody. Right? One team, one goal. As men, they all had huge respect for Krishna and Yudhishthira. While as warriors, they were in complete awe of Bhima and Arjuna. Right? They were all appreciating Bhima and Arjuna. Most of them were close relatives, cousins, brother-in-laws, father-in-laws. More than that, they all were part of the decision-making process. It was their common war. Right? They had a shared vision. So similarly, leader should also have a shared vision. He should not become a dictator because I am telling you fight. Right? Duryodhana was like that. I want to fight, all of you support me. That was Duryodhana mentality. But Pandavas, Yudhishthira will always call for a meeting and he will take suggestions from everybody. Then he say, we don't want to fight. What should we do? What do you say, Nakul? What do you say, Arjuna? What do you say, Bhima? What do you say, Krishna? Like this, they will take opinions and then come to a common decision. So this war was common war. But on the other side, it was only war of Duryodhana. Nobody wanted to fight. Bhishma did not want to fight. Drona did not want to fight. Kripacharya did not want to fight. But they were forced to fight. But here, it was a Pandava side was a common shared goal, shared vision. So it's a teamwork. Teamwork succeeds when individual efforts fail. Like you've seen the bundle of sticks. If you take one stick, you can easily break it. But if bundle of stick is there, if a team is there, then you cannot break it. So one stick may fail, but bundle of sticks will never fail. Similarly, one person, he may fail, but if there is a strong team, and then others will support him. So that is the lesson we can learn from this. So there is an abbreviation here for team, TEAM. It means what? Together, everyone achieves more, right? So that is the meaning of a team. If we are in a team, then we'll achieve more. Like in a company or in a college, like in college also you have projects. In projects, there is a team of 4 or 5 people who do the project. So if they come together and work together with a shared vision, common vision, then what will happen? They will emerge successful in that project. Right? You make a car, you make a robot or something like that. Similarly, in service, in devotional life also, in temple or something, services that you make a team, like book distribution or Gita program or something like that. And then in a team, it's very easy. Right? In office also, if you have a strong team of managers, then it will become successful because each one does their role properly. Then there's a team effort, right? So in a team, what happens is one complements each other. Like in a musical performance, like when you do kirtan, one person plays kartal, another person plays a dholak or mridanga, another person plays harmonium, and one person sings. So if you imagine in a team, everybody is a singer or everybody is a mridanga player. Can kirtan happen? No. Orchestra cannot happen. So each one is good at something. When those people of having different variety of skills come together, then there's beautiful orchestra performance. Then people can enjoy. So similarly, when you do beautiful kirtan performance, then Lord will enjoy. So when we form a team, then we can achieve more. That's the lesson. Now, 6th one. Individual motivations. Kauravas had their own individual motivations for war. Right? There are 4 main generals. And their motivation was like this. Bhishma was like the great grandfather, and Bhishma saw all the Pandavas as grandchildren. Bhishma had taken a vow, will not kill anybody, any of the Pandavas. I'll kill all the soldiers, thousands of soldiers. He was single-handedly killing many of them every day. But he had taken a vow that I'll not kill the Pandavas. And Dronacharya said, see, Pandavas are my students. How can I kill them? And Arjuna is a favorite student. I'll capture them. And Shalya, Nakula Sahadev's maternal uncle, he said, he loved Pandavas very much. And he helped the Pandavas by humiliating Karna. So although he was on Kaurav's side, he was supporting Pandavas. So that was the individual motivation. And Karna, brother of Pandavas, and he had promised, I'll not kill anybody except Arjuna. Either Arjuna will die or I will die. So that was the vow he had taken. So nobody was in harmony. So it was a team of traitors. And on the other side, Pandavas, high commitment, such a commitment, right? You see, common goal, but the individuals had their own individual targets, their own agenda, which just became one with team's agenda. They had their personal ambition, but it was in line with the ambition of the team. Like Drishtadyumna, his target was Dronacharya. Satyaki, target was Bhurishrava. Shikhandi, Bhishma. Arjuna, target was Karna. Bhima, he had to hit a century. He told all 100 Kauravas, I will only kill. So whenever Arjuna meets some Kaurava, he'll leave him. He will defeat and leave him. He will not kill. But Bhima killed all 100. And Sahadeva, his target was Shakuni and his sons. And Nakula was Karna's sons. So like this, the target was fixed, goal was fixed. So the right team is made by selecting right individuals. Get the right man for the job. Right? Similarly, in any organization, there are many things to be done. Like sometimes there will be sales job, or there will be some administration, or there will be some clerical works, or there is sometimes you need a vision. Right? Everybody cannot do everything. So if you tell a manager to do a clerical job, no, it will not fit. Right? So each one's strengths have to be assessed, and accordingly one should give a right job to that personality. So then there will be success, right? In Kirtan, if you tell a Kartal player to play Mridanga, it's not going to work, isn't it? Similarly, you should identify each person's strengths and then give him service accordingly. So then it will be successful. Right? So now commitment. So Kaurava's side, commitment was lacking, but Pandava's side, there was high commitment. Kauravas, like Bhishma himself gave the secret of killing. At once, Arjuna came and asked, no, that how can we kill you, Bhishma? Then Bhishma said that when I hear a bad news, when I see Shikhandi on the chariot, then I will not fight. So then you can kill me. Dronacharya also said, yes, if I hear a bad news in the battle, then I'll give up my bow, then I can be defeated. And Karna, he gave his kavach and kundal, and then he was without any protection, right? It was very essential for fighting. So still, he gave it up. And Shalya kept on insulting Karna while in battle. So when you insult somebody in fighting, then one loses confidence, isn't it? So that's what happened. But on Pandava's side, there was high commitment. Abhimanyu, a 16-year-old boy, but such high commitment he had that he single-handedly fought with 7 Maharathis, single-handedly. Drona and Karna, and Shakuni, Kripa, and so many, Duryodhana. So all these people he was fighting alone because they had made a Chakravyuha, and nobody knew how to break Chakravyuha except Arjuna, and Arjuna was fighting far away. So then they're about to capture Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira said, Abhimanyu, you go inside and we'll follow you. Abhimanyu went inside single-handed, alone. And Pandavas are about to enter. At that time, Jayadratha stops them. So somehow Abhimanyu got stuck up, but still he gave a tough fight. That was his commitment. Ghatotkacha, right? He was fighting, and he became the cause of defeating Karna because Karna was forced to use Shakti weapon to kill Ghatotkacha. Else Karna would have been killed by Ghatotkacha. And Yudhishthira, right? So Yudhishthira didn't hesitate to tell a lie or a twisted truth when faced with decision of whether to stick to his personal integrity or the welfare of the team. Right now, one thing is personal integrity, and another thing is welfare of the team. One may have personal principles, but for the team, one may have to sacrifice his personal principle to protect the team. So Yudhishthira was ready to do that. Then Krishna, his commitment to Pandavas was such that he was ready to take the blame for lifting weapons. Of course, he did not fight, and he did not lift weapons also. He lifted a chariot wheel and tried to attack Bhishma, and he didn't attack also. So he just showed his anger at that time. So Krishna was ready to take the blame that people will call him that no, that you promised that you'll not pick up weapons, but you still picked up. He was ready to take the blame for the sake of protecting Pandavas. So that was his commitment, right? So the lesson is the interests of the individual should never exceed the team interest. The best man for a job is not the one with the best capabilities, but one with the greatest commitment, right? So in a team, you may have many people, and some may be very skilled also. But those people who are having great commitment, they will be helpful to you rather than those who have high skills, right? So we should look for committed people in our team. That's the lesson. Now you see the managers on the side of Kauravas and Pandavas. Pandavas side had right managers. Krishna is the greatest crisis manager. He was the one who took out Pandavas from the greatest danger, right? So that was, of course, we have just exceeded time, but I'll just finish in 2-3 minutes by telling in brief about the last 3 points. Right, when Arjuna was in distress in the beginning of Kurukshetra, he was crying. So then Arjuna says, Krishna, I'm so distressed, I cannot fight. And Krishna gave Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna came out of the problem. And Yudhishthir, he was so humble, and in the beginning of battle, he right away went to Dronacharya and asked blessings and touched the feet of Dronacharya in the middle of the battlefield, actually, before the battle begins. And Dronacharya said, Vijayi Bhava. Interesting, right? So that was the lesson. So one should know the enemy's weaknesses, inspire, invigorate, counsel your own team in moments of need. That's the lesson. Simplicity and touch with ground reality. See, Kauravas were brought up as princes in the royal palace, and they had power, fame, courage, but they had no experience of ground reality. But Pandavas, on the other hand, they spent their lives in poverty, in the forest, in exile, right, for Ajnatavas, and they contacted so many rishis, sannyasis, brahmanas, potters, all kinds of people, varieties. So they knew the world, right? Yaksha, Gandharva, Apsara, Nagas. Because of that variety of experience, they knew the ground realities, and that's how they had very fixed up in the root core principles of morality, right? So that is the Pandavas. And women empowerment. In the side of Kauravas, women are not at all valued. Gandhari gave wonderful advices that don't fight and give away this Duryodhana. Although she is mother, she said, don't listen to Duryodhana, give him away. But still, Dhritarashtra did not agree. She was sent away. Then Gandhari went into the inner chambers and she did not try to give any further advice. But on the other side, Pandava's side, women were given such high respect. Pandavas always consulted Kunti in the time of need. And they gave such high respect and regard for Draupadi that Draupadi also gave her very wonderful advices at the right time. And all the other wives of Pandavas, their main contribution was they took care of their children, like Ghatotkacha, Abhimanyu, and Iravan. They were all given wonderful values and culture by their respective mothers, because of which they became extremely powerful. So the lesson is, woman is the better half. Any team which does not have women is unbalanced. For the masculine traits of aggression and dominance should be balanced by feminine traits of harmony and sustenance. So this is the lesson we can learn from the 10th lesson and the last lesson from the Mahabharata. And finally, we will end with this wonderful shloka from Bhagavad Gita, one of the last shlokas. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvanitir Matrimaha. Right? Wherever there is Yogeshwara Krishna and wherever there is a devotee like Partha, there will be surely opulence, Shri, victory, Niti, morality. So that is the verdict of Sanjay. Means what? If we have Krishna on our side and there may be any kind of danger coming in front, surely victory will be ours. So we should make the decision of being on the side of Krishna. So that is the main lesson which we can learn from this Mahabharata or Bhagavad Gita. So these are the 10 lessons in summary. Just to recap, I'll read them. Turn your weakness into strengths. Turn enemies into allies. Share your responsibilities. Teamwork scores for individual efforts. The right team should have right set of individuals. Right man for the right job. Commitment scores or competence. Team interests or individual interests. Right managers, right? And know the ground realities and empower women and respect women. Don't insult women. So these are the lessons which we can learn from this Mahabharata. Thank you so much for your patient hearing and your participation in this whole seminar. So now I'm ending my presentation. Now we'll open up for question answers and any comments if anybody has. So you can speak or you can type it. So we'll happy to.
Prabhuji, I have a doubt.
Yes.
Prabhuji, why did not Bhishma support the...
If you are okay, you can turn on your videos also. We can see each other. Yes, please.
Prabhuji, why did not Bhishma support Pandavas during the fight?
Yeah, so very good question, Lohit. So you are asking why Bhishma did not support Pandavas. Yes, he loved Pandavas, but he had committed because Bhishma had taken a vow that at any cost I will help the person sitting in the chair of Hastinapura. And at that time, Dhritarashtra was acting as the king. So that's why he wanted to support Dhritarashtra, who was sitting as the king. So that is one reason. That's on the moral platform. We can understand this. But if you understand it from a devotional point of view, actually Bhishma is one of the great devotees of Lord Krishna. Right? Bhishma is called one of the Mahajanas. His name comes in one of 12 there are 12 Mahajanas. Swayambhu, Narada, Shambhu, Kumara, Kapila, Manu, right? Prahlada, Janaka, Bhishma, Bali, Vaiyasaki, Vayam. So these 12 Mahajanas are there. Out of that, Bhishma is one. So Bhishma wanted to, had understood the heart of Krishna. That Krishna wanted Bhishma to fight with him. Like both are on the same side. How can Bhishma fight with Krishna? Because Krishna wanted to experience fighting rasa. So at one point of time in Kurukshetra, Bhishma and Krishna came face to face. And Bhishma was shooting arrows at Krishna and Krishna was enjoying it. And it is said that when Bhishma was shooting arrows, it was appearing as if somebody is throwing flowers at Krishna. Krishna is not at all feeling anything because Krishna's body is spiritual. Even if somebody shoots him, nothing happens to him. So it's transcendental body. So that is Krishna. So that is from devotional angle, we can understand why Bhishma was fighting on the other side. Okay. So there is some question in chat box. Yudhishthira was always devoted to Krishna, but why didn't he remember Krishna at the time of gambling? Yes, so Pawan is asking this question. Yes, gambling is bad, and one should not gamble because gambling is the cause of all the vice or sinful activities. So why did he still gamble? Actually, at the time when gambling match was called for, he did not want to gamble. Yudhishthira Maharaj clearly told Dhritarashtra, gambling is cause of all bad activities. I don't want to gamble. He told it clearly. And he asked Dhritarashtra, do you want me to gamble? Because you are like my father. In the absence of my father, you take care of me. And you are my elder. But if you order, then only I will do. Otherwise, I will not do. It's not my will. And Dhritarashtra was silent. He was thinking very deeply. And Maunam Sammati Lakshanam. Somebody is keeping silent means he's saying yes. So then Yudhishthira Maharaj was helpless and then he gambled. And actually the Dhritarashtra had told, this is going to be a friendly gambling match. It's not going to be a very serious gambling match. We will just friendly will play. But later on they understood it's a serious match. They're gambling gold and then elephant and horses and property and palaces and then themselves. It became very, very bad gambling match. Then they lost everything. So this was the wicked mentality of Dhritarashtra, that he wanted to somehow or the other cheat Pandavas and send them to the forest. So he remembered Krishna, but and it was also that Krishna wanted them to become more stronger by going to the forest, right? So that's why Krishna also did not interfere at the time. But of course he interfered. He showed his chamatkar by coming in the form of a sari and protecting Draupadi's chastity. So in that way, Krishna protected the Pandavas at the time of gambling match. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Lord, the sun god had given a golden armor to Karna. So as long as Karna wears the armor, he cannot be killed. Arjuna was the one who killed Karna, right? So how did he kill Karna?
Yeah, so that's the story which says that actually, if you want to know about Karna more, then actually in his past life, Karna was a demon. He was a Rakshasa called Sahasra Kavacha. He had 1,000 Kavachas and he was fighting with Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu was just breaking all the Kavachas. 999 were broken and only one was remaining. Then this demon thinks, oh, if this is also gonna die, he immediately went and took shelter of Surya. And then Vishnu left him, and then he took care of shelter of Surya, and Surya kept him with him. And later on, when Kunti chanted that mantra to Surya out of curiosity, then Surya came and gave Karna. And Karna was born with that previous Kavacha from his past life and Kundal. Right. So then it was a very powerful Kavacha. And then, of course, Lord Vishnu with his chakra had cut many of the Kavachas. It was not very difficult for Karna to kill Karna. Krishna could have easily killed him, right? So, but later on, during the before the battle of Kurukshetra, at that time when Indra comes in the form of Brahmana and requests Karna, you please give me this Kavacha. So, and then Karna, he was known for his giving his charity. He was known for giving charity, and Karna wanted to keep that fame which he was getting. That I am Danashura, so I should keep that fame. So somebody is asking Kavacha, how can I say no? So and then he gave his Kavacha to him, and because of that he lost his armor. And later on during the fight, he was killed by the arrow of Arjuna. So that's what happened. So there's another question here. That yeah, please explain the circumstances in which all the 5 Pandavas had to marry Draupadi. Yeah, thank you. Actually, there's a difficult circumstance which came. Sujay is asking this question, right? So when they were in exile after the Varanavata burning, the home was burnt. They went to Vanavas for 1 year. At that time, they heard that Draupadi's Swayamvara is happening, and Yudhishthira told Arjuna, "You go and participate in this Swayamvara." So Arjuna went in the form of a Brahmana. So then there's a competition, and then he won the competition, and then Draupadi was won, and then Arjuna brought Draupadi to home, and he told Kunti. Kunti was inside the home, and Arjuna was outside. And Arjuna said, "Mother, I got a gift for you. Wonderful gift." Then Kunti casually said, "Share it." And Arjuna was shocked. Arjuna shocked that how, mother, actually this is not some ordinary gift. It is Draupadi. And Kunti was also shocked. Why didn't you tell me before? I thought you got some food or something. So then Kunti said, "See, I have spoken something. I am so pure that whatever I speak has to be true." So then she thinks, what is this? And then they call all the Pandavas, and the Pandavas are also confused. How can we share Draupadi with all? And then they call higher authorities. Vyasadev, they call the highest authority Vyasa. And Vyasadev comes and gives consultation. Then he says, actually, Draupadi in her past life, she was doing tapasya, and she was asking Shiva for a husband. And she asked 5 times, "I want husband, like 5 times." Then Shiva said, "Yes, tatastu." So she was blessed with having 5 husbands. So in the next life, she got 5 husbands. So that is the circumstance in which the Pandavas had to marry 5 Pandavas had to marry on Draupadi, which is very exceptional, and it doesn't generally happen. And this was the plan of the higher arrangement, plan of destiny, that Pandavas have Draupadi. And of course, they also had other wives. Each one of them had different other wives. And Draupadi was the common wife because of blessing of Lord Shiva from the past life. Okay. Did Pandavas ask for 5 villages which Duryodhana can't give because of some promises? So Kedar Munoli is asking. Actually, Pandavas asked for any 5 villages, simple villages, but Duryodhana was so insecure. He was feeling insecure that we gave Pandavas Khandoprastha in the past, a desert land, and Arjuna, with the help of Krishna, made Khandoprastha into Indraprastha, a desert land they made into such wonderful place. So if you give 5 villages, they'll become so powerful with just these 5 villages. So you're so insecure. हम कुछ भी नहीं देंगे उनको. If you give little bit also, they'll become more powerful. So that was the fear of Duryodhana. So he didn't give. Yes. So there's another question by Dheeraj. How was Lord Krishna born in spiritual world? Okay, actually Lord Krishna is never born. Krishna is always existing. He is he is Aja. He is always existing. He is never born in spiritual world nor in the material world. He is always existing, just like sun. Right? Sun appears in the daytime and he sets in the night time. In the night you may not be able to see sun, but sun is somewhere else. And again tomorrow morning you will see, because sun is rotating around the earth, isn't it? Similarly, Krishna also, sometimes you can see him and sometimes you cannot see him. When he appears as Avatara, you can see him, and when he goes away, you cannot see him. Like this, Krishna keeps coming and going, coming and going. Whenever you see him, you say Avatar, he has come, and when he leaves, he has gone away. Like that. So Krishna is always existing. He never takes birth nor he dies. Right?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Prabhuji, the war. There were many soldiers, more than like 100,000 warriors and all that. So
Yeah.
who made the food for them all?
Right. See, there is an army team and there is a backup team. Backup team means there is a support team. Like even in Indian army, all army people are not soldiers. There is one portion who fight actually on the border, and there's army medical team, there's army cooking team, there's army nursing team, there's army pujari team also. There are temples in the army cantonments, and there are different people who worship because they need puja also, right? So there are different teams. So when you say army, it contains everything. So they go with the entire facility, right? So there is a different team for that also.
Then Prabhuji, how did they know how much food to make? Because each day many warriors will die.
Yeah, that I don't know. Maybe we have to go and ask them how they used to make. Right. And even in Indian army, you can see that there are lakhs of soldiers, and they have their system, how they cook. There are battalions. There's Karnataka battalion, there's Goa Maharashtra battalion. And each battalion, they know how many soldiers are there, and they have a division of resources by which they manage the whole thing. Okay. So there is another question here. Ashwin Gowda, he's asking, what was the main intention or duty of Lord Krishna being an avatar of Lord Vishnu? Yeah. So when Lord Krishna comes, as far as I understand this question, what is the main intention why Krishna comes to this world? Right. It's given in Bhagavad Gita. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyam paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Right. This is the main purpose of Krishna to appear here, to establish dharma, to destroy the miscreants, and to protect the devotees. There are 3 purposes why Lord Krishna comes to this story. So this is given in 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yes. Anybody has any other question? Anybody who has not asked? Hare Krishna. Your voice is not very clear. Hare Krishna. Yes. Are there any other questions? Okay. So thank you very much.
Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhuji, that Amba told that she will kill Bhishma, but in the war, Bhishma was killed by Arjuna.
Hmm. Yeah. So that Amba came as Shikhandi, right? So Shikhandi was the king, and the Shikhandi was on the chariot of Arjuna when the war was happening, right? So Bhishma knew that Shikhandi was a lady in the previous life, and Bhishma said, "I cannot fight with a lady," because he knew that he was a lady in the past life. So that's why Bhishma did not fight, and he stopped shooting arrows, and Arjuna shot arrows. So that's what happened. So actually, as you know, we are spirit soul. The soul can take man body, it can take woman body, it can take cat dog body or dog body also. Right? The soul keeps changing. Like we are discussing about reincarnation and soul in the past sessions in the Gita course, online Gita course. So Amba, who was lady in the previous life, became a man, a king in the next life. Because she was a Kshatrani, she became a Kshatriya in this life, which Bhishma knew. So that's why he didn't fight. So that is the main reason. Okay.
Prabhuji, then the soul was exchange of Arjuna and Shikhandi.
No, it's not like that. Amba became Shikhandi and Arjuna was Arjuna. There is no exchange of souls. Right? See, main thing in Mahabharata to understand is, we'll end with this one, that one should try to see that wherever Krishna is there, if we take the side of God, always we'll be victorious. Even if challenges will come, we'll be victorious. A Pandava's life was filled with failure after failure after failure. And one may say the Pandavas are devotees of Krishna, but so many failures they faced. And they didn't enjoy the property. They had to encounter murder attempts by Kauravas. They also had to fight for their own kingdom. They had to lose their father. Kunti was in trouble for so many years. And when Pandavas were in forest, Kunti was with Dhritarashtra in Hastinapur, and she was hearing how this Duryodhana and all, they are making plans to kill Pandavas. When the war was going on, she was still in great anxiety what will happen. So many troubles Pandavas faced, and on the other hand, you see Kauravas ruling very nicely. So similarly, we can see that sometimes a person who has faith in God may also face difficulties in his life. But if he continues with good faith in the protection of the Lord, eventually he will become victorious. So at the end, Pandavas became victorious. At the end, Kauravas lost. Although initially it is appearing that Kauravas are winning. Similarly, in this world also, you may see a sinful person who is doing all bad activities flourishing, but it is only temporary. A time will come when he will perish, right? And a good man, it may appear that he is going through tough time. There are so many difficulties in his life, but eventually you will see that the good man will flourish. So that's what will happen. So it's just a matter of time. One should go on with full faith in the life, with faith on Krishna, actually. So I think one more question has come here. In Mahasabha, there were great devotees like Pandavas and Mahajana like Bhishma. How could they tolerate the insult of devotee like Draupadi? Yeah, very, very beautiful question, interesting question. Actually, nobody could tolerate this except right? Only Dushasana, Duryodhana, Karna, Shakuni, they were enjoying this scene. And some wicked Kauravas, they were also enjoying this scene which was happening there. But Dhritarashtra also was disturbed. And Drona and Bhishma, they wanted to take action, but they could not. Because Dhritarashtra was keeping silent. The Dhritarashtra is the king. Generally, when such things happen, the eldermost person, the senior-most person has to stop it. And Dhritarashtra being the king, he had to stop it, but he could not because of his attachment to Duryodhana. And Yudhishthira and Pandavas, they were so angry. It is said that Bhima was so angry that fire was coming from his ears. He was so angry and he was breathing like fire. And he was looking at Arjuna, looking at Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira gave little indication, immediately killed Dushasana and all people. So that was their intention. That was what is happening. But Bhishma was sitting silent there. Why? Because Bhishma, being devotee of Krishna, knew that Krishna is going to come now. And if I interfere, Lord's plan will be spoiled. Let my Lord come. And the whole assembly will witness the compassion of Lord Krishna. And they'll witness what Dushasana and Karna and Duryodhana they are doing. It is wrong. Right? So Bhishma in the heart, he knew about Krishna's plan. So he waited for that, and sure enough, at the right moment, Krishna came and gave full protection to Draupadi. So that was what was happening in the assembly. Okay. So I think many questions are coming, but I don't know whether we should continue or we should stop it.
हो जाएगी तो खाली रोटी बन जाए तब खा ली.
We'll take one more. Why Kunti stayed in Hastinapur? Because she was already elderly and old, and staying in forest will have so much inconvenience, right? There'll be tigers, there'll be no home to stay, the rain and wind. So the Pandavas themselves, how do you stay in Hastinapur? And Vidra will take care of you. So Vidra is a good person. Although Vidra was also Kaurava, brother of Dhritarashtra, but Vidra was taking care of Kunti in Hastinapur, right? So that was what was happening. So, and Draupadi being the wife, she said, I will come. And they didn't want to take Draupadi also, but Draupadi said, I will come and I'll serve all of you. So that's why Draupadi went to the forest. Okay. So we'll end here. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining today. And we are also having this online Bhagavad Gita course. So those who wish to attend this online Bhagavad Gita course, you can also join every evening at 6 o'clock on Facebook or on Zoom. So you can contact our representative. So on Arun, his number is there on the poster. So you can contact him and you can.
Timing has changed to 2 o'clock.
Huh?
Timing has been changed to 2 o'clock.
Today we changed to 2 o'clock. So every day should we have 2 o'clock?
Oh no, okay. Every day 6 o'clock, na? Okay.
Every day. Today only we had 2
Sir,
o'clock because
sir, it's my biggest doubt. Is being an omnivore sin or not?
Being
Being an omnivore is sin or not?
So being okay, you are basically asking the question that whether eating flesh of other animals is sinful.
Yes, sir.
So so that's the question, right? So actually, it is said in Shastras that every person has to eat something to survive, isn't it? Right? We have to eat, otherwise we cannot survive. We need energy for the body, so we have to eat something. So there is a concept that jivo jivasya jivanam, sahastani sahasthanam, apadani chatuspadam, right? Falguni tatra mahatam, jivo jivasya jivanam. It is said like that. Like a frog is eaten by snake, and a snake is eaten by birds, and a bird is eaten by some other animals. Right? A deer is eaten by cheetah, like that. So every organism has got a food to eat, and the creation, the nature has made such food in the world. So human being also has been made certain food that he is supposed to eat. Right? What are those? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram, Pushpam, Phalam, Toyam. Right? Vegetables, fruits, flowers, and water and juices. So these are the items which one should eat. And by eating this, one is not causing harm to any other living beings. Right? Because when a person cuts the throat of a bird, like chicken, It's crying, it's in pain. So by eating chicken, we are causing great pain to animal. And if you cut a goat also, it's like very, very much in pain. So that's why causing pain to others and surviving our body, that's not recommended. But causing minimum harm to others and maintaining our body, that is recommended. So that's why eating flesh is sinful because it involves causing pain to others. But what about vegetarian? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, even eating vegetarian food also involves sin, but a limited sin. That if eating non-veg is this much of sin, and eating vegetarian is this much of sin. And because animals have big consciousness, they can feel the pain, they have blood, they can speak, they can shout. But the plants have very limited consciousness, so they don't retaliate or shout, or they don't feel the pain also. So that's why for humans, the recommended food is vegetarian food. And for other animals, other food is recommended. Like for cow, it eats grasses and leaves. It will not eat non-vegetarian because that is the recommended food. Right? For tiger, the deer is a recommended food. If somebody eats the recommended food, then there is no sin. But Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if you are eating vegetarian food and if you offer it as Naivedya to the Lord and then take prasad, then that sin is also gone. So that's called prasad. Prasad means it has no papa. Yajna shishta sinasanto muchyante sarvakil vishayi bhunjate te tvagam papa ye pachanti atma karanat. So that's a shloka given in Bhagavad Gita, which says that those who cook and eat without expressing gratitude to me, offering it to me, it is sinful. But if somebody cooks and offers it to the Lord with gratitude, thank you Krishna for giving all this to me, and he says that thank you and then eats, then that's called prasad, right? So this is what is recommended in the Shastras. So that's why I want to try to reduce eating non-veg and eventually stop it, right? If somebody has a habit already, he's doing it unknowingly, then he can make a plan. Okay, I will reduce it to, if I'm eating daily, then I'll reduce it to once in a week. I'll do it for 1 month. Then after that, I'll reduce it to once in 2 weeks, then once in a month, and then I will completely forget it. Right? Like that, he can make a plan, and he can take more vegetarian food. And vegetarian food is not that some boiled vegetables you're eating. A nice puri, sabji, halwa, paneer, sweet rice, right? So many varieties are there. We can make with milk. We can make so many items, right? Right? Instead of cutting the cow and eating the cow blood and cow flesh, one can take milk, right? Because milk is very healthy, right? So that milk can be taken instead of taking the flesh of the animal, right? So that's why cow is called mother, because she gives milk. In the absence of mother's milk, sometimes mother cannot produce breast milk. So at that time, cow milk is given, right? So that cow milk can be taken. And it's not that we are taking cow milk and exploiting cow. No. First, the calf should be fed, and calf is fully satisfied. Then the excess remaining milk that humans consume. So that's how one should live one's life. Is it clear, Ashwin?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So thank you for your wonderful question answers and interaction. So we'll end our session for today. So thank you very much. And I'm planning that we'll do this Prerna program next Sunday also. Every Sunday till the lockdown is there, we'll try to do this program and discuss on Mahabharata and Ramayana and different topics. And I hope this will benefit all the audience and followers who are coming on Facebook. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Mahabharata ki jai.